Hi everyone. This is a little video trying to explain some of the stuff that's underneath here. I got the links and stuff below about how the collaborative process for the PSA assignment is going to work. Honestly, this is something I should have created a while ago, but it's been a while since I've had a collaborative project for an online class, and so I'm a little bit behind on getting this going. But hopefully, this will make sense, and hopefully, this will explain how this is all going to work. Okay, so let me show you some slides. Walk you through this. First off, I have a link there below to the survey I'd like you to take that asks some basic questions like, who do you know? Who else do you know in the class? Because, if you know other people in the class, you want to work with them, then that's, something worth talking about in terms of trying to make that collaboration work. Also, what kind of experience you have with recording video and recording audio? What kind of access do you have with the equipment? How willing are you to act? How willing are you to be able to come to campus? Stuff like that. I'll review this and assign people to groups, and we'll probably have 4 groups, 1 with 4 people and 3 with 5. My experience has been it's better to have groups that are a little bit too big, a little bit too small, because sometimes not everybody can be there and things like that. No guarantees for me about honoring preferences, but I'll try my best. And you should be able to know about this no later than by Wednesday of next week. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how I think the collaboration kind of works generally, and to sort of supplement the some of what we've already been talking about with this. I think that basically collaboration works in 2 extremes. One I would describe as very immediate and intimate, and one I would describe as very distant. The very immediate and intimate one is sort of what the reading is getting at. Like, this is kind of what were the names Corona and Day and Eodice, I guess is how you pronounce her name, are sort of describing in their essay. And the way that it works is that collaborators do all parts of the project all at the same time together from beginning to end. And sometimes when it comes to writing, this literally means people sitting together at a computer keyboard, writing every sentence and every paragraph together. Okay. The very distant collaboration, in contrast, is basically collaborators get together at the beginning, divide the project up into smaller parts and smaller tasks. They go off and do those parts and tasks, and then they come back together at the end to put it together. This is essentially how assembly lines work, right? Like, assembly lines are collaborative in the sense that you're all working together to make a car, but somebody puts the wheels on, somebody puts the engine in, somebody puts in the seats. You get the idea, and then it doesn't come out. It comes out the other end as a finished car. Um, the the extremes of this have similar advantages and disadvantages, or I should say opposite advantages and disadvantages, right? So the advantages of the very immediate, intimate collaboration is that everyone's equally involved, and the text that you end up producing, the work that you end up producing, is seamless because you've all worked on it from beginning to end. The disadvantage is that the individual roles of what people are doing can be vague because everybody's kind of doing the same thing. It can also kind of contribute more, I think, to a sort of situation in which one person kind of dominates the discussion in a way that doesn't is not necessarily productive. And of course, it's really difficult to coordinate the time and the places for doing this kind of meeting, and also it's very time consuming. So the advantages and disadvantages of very distant collaboration are essentially the opposite, right? The individual roles are very clearly defined because you're the one who puts in the tires, I'm the one who puts in the chairs, you're the one who puts in the engine or whatever kind of thing. You contribute similarly because you divide the tasks up into similar kinds of roles, and it requires fewer meetings and coordination because you just set up from the get-go what everyone's going to do. The disadvantage is that the finished product that you end up with is often very disjointed and uneven, and not clearly not one whole text, if you will. Um, Individuals might understand how different parts of the process work because they only worked on their own little part, and sometimes it can create a little bit of resentment of people in the group that they didn't do their share. Like, people kind of like sloughed off, that somehow putting in the tires was easier. Well, what I want you to shoot for is this: the sweet spot between the two. Think in terms of how can you maximize the advantages of very intimate and immediate collaboration with the advantages of very distant collaboration, right? So in other words, I'm not expecting you to sort of be constantly working together, but I'm also hoping that your collaborative efforts are such that it's somewhere between these two different extremes. Okay. Some other piece of advice for me is that I recommend, if you can do it, to meet face to face on campus, at least for the first time, because if you and at least for those who can make it to the meeting. Okay. I realize it's an online class and I can't require you to come to campus, and I don't want to do that. But at the same time, if that's possible, it does seem to work better when people are in the same space, or at least 4 out of 5 people or 3 out of 4 people in the same place. If that can't work, then you can do it with Zoom. And I would recommend actually doing the follow up meetings with Zoom, because I do think that Zoom is useful once you've established a sort of face to face relationship. I don't think it's as useful when that's the only relationship you have between each other. And maybe you had some of these experiences in online classes last year that were synchronous and held by Zoom. I have a link here that you can follow up on how you can use a Zoom session. If since you're an enrolled student at EMU, you can set up a Zoom session on your computer just the same way that I set up a Zoom session as a teacher to invite people to it. Okay. So, and if you run into troubles with that, let me know and I'll try to walk you through it. Other piece of advice, you don't want to be lazy, right? The thing that I think most people fear in collaborative experiences is they're in a group of 2 or 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 or 5 people, and then it turns out that 1 or 2 or more of the people in the group are just lazy and they just don't do their their fair share, and that can be really, really frustrating. Don't do that, obviously. But the opposite side of it can be just as bad, the so-called, what I refer to as the ball hog. I've had groups before in the past where literally there was one person in the group who basically said, listen, we're going to do this my way, so the rest of you people just sit down and get out of the way and let me do it. That's not cool either. Okay. So obviously everybody wants to pitch in a similar kind of way, but everyone's also going to have different kinds of roles in which maybe they do a little bit differently in amount of work in terms of how to put together the storyboards and how to shoot the videos and how to edit things and stuff like that. So that's okay. What I would say is that early on you want to figure out what is everyone's role going to be. And by the way, one of the roles of for someone in the group should be essentially the manager. And I don't mean this is the boss, and I don't mean this is the person to tell everybody what to do. I mean this is the person who keeps it all kind of organized, right? As in, like, okay, if we got the audio over here, that's great. We get the script over here, because there's a lot of moving parts, and some people are better at keeping track of those moving parts than others. And so maybe that could be someone's role. There's going to be a series of updates as we go along here for, where you have to tell us what's going to be going on with, us as in me and everybody else in the classes, how your collaboration is going as the assignment progresses. So, you're going to have those sorts of touch points as we go through the assignment. Um, there's the other thing is that I think that a lot of people fear collaborative exercises, and this doesn't really come up in the reading so much because they don't like the idea that their grade and that their work is somehow dependent on someone else. Okay. Well, the first thing to keep in mind is, remember, the collaboration for this assignment is really limited to making the video and the audio PSAs. Your essay, which is really what I'm going to be basing most of my grade on, is still going to be an individually written project. Okay. But as I explain in the assignment, at the end of it, I'm going to ask each of you to write a very brief memo to me directly in which you explain, what did you do to help make the video and the audio PSA files for your group's project? What specifically do you think other people in the group did to make the PSA? And what grade would you give to everyone for their contributions to the PSA? And again, I'm talking here about actually making the video and making the audio. This is the speak now or forever hold your peace clause of the peer collaboration. Because if you get done with the assignment and you turn it all in and you look it all over and you realize, you know what, that collaborative experience actually went great. I have no problems with I think we all pitched in pretty well. I'm happy with it. Then you can write a memo that basically says, we all did a great job. I think you should give everyone an A. Okay. On the other hand, if it didn't go well, like if you do feel like there was that 1 or 2 people in the group who didn't do their fair share, or if there was some other kind of issue going on, or maybe there was somebody in the group who did more than their fair share and wouldn't allow you to do anything as part of the collaborative experience, if that makes sense. Write that down in this memo, and I will take that into consideration. I mean, if there's a group of 4 or 5 people, and 3 or 4 of those people say that so and so didn't contribute, or so and so in the group did all the work, I'm going to make an adjustment with a grade based on that kind of feedback. Hopefully that makes sense. One last thing I'll just mention about the collaborative experience here. This is supposed to be kind of a fun project, right? So don't get too anxious about the grade part of it, because again, most of it's going to be based on your individual work anyways. Think more in terms of what you get out of working with others, both as just the experience of working with others, because that's working with others can be fun, but also as part of the writing process. What does it mean to collaborate in writing, especially when you're collaborating on something that's writing that's not traditional writing, like making a video, making an audio? Okay, hopefully that makes sense. If you've got questions and concerns, ask them below. Take that survey below, and yeah, we'll be getting started on this next week. Okay, bye bye.